What's up? This is Mark Lopes from Metal Church of Ross the Boss Band. Let us pray. And you're listening to Aftershocks TV. And don't forget to keep it fucking metal. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, Tom, let's talk some Tony Iommi here. Once you get into what's going on with the legendary...
With the man himself, actually. And what kind of triggered me on this is I was flipping around on YouTube a few days ago and I was looking at, there was a documentary came up out of the blue, which was the Who Cares project he did with Ian Gillan a couple of years ago about, was it the war or the earthquake in Europe? I really can't remember. But anyway, and I was, that kind of got me talking about what we're going to discuss this week. And then I stumbled across the news report, which is not a new report, but I think it got solidified that it's happening in May, I think, of this year, which is, of course, the re-release on the box set of the Tony Martin years, the two Tonys, which some people know all about, others don't. I think it's a tremendously underrated portion of the Sabbath discography. And you look back on the albums, there's Eternal Idol, Headless Cross, Tear, Tire, how you pronounce it, Cross Purposes, obviously, and Forbidden, which is not that good, but but I think this is great to have. And I was looking on Apple Music this morning. I do not subscribe to Spotify, so I can't confirm there. But the only album from the Tony Martin years on Apple Music is the Eternal Idol. So you can't get these even on. They're out there, I guess. I mean, they're so. And I think if they're going to get, there are a lot of them are pretty well produced, if I can recall. So I don't know what the. Chris said something. I was just doing an older podcast with Chris a while ago, and he was talking about he's not a big fan of remasters, and he can't really. It just sounds a bit louder, as opposed to whatever. And I probably tend to agree with him, but I'm kind of a little bit excited by this one because I'm hoping for a couple of unreleased tracks. I read something recently whereby Eddie Van Halen was in a studio for I could have been Headless Cross. I can't remember. And he came in and jammed on a track, so maybe that's going to be there as an outtake. I don't know. Wow. I mean, it's not out yet, but I think this is a good one. And there's one gem in there, which is not part of this, but there's one gem within that period of time, which was the live album for Cross Purposes, which was released in '95 with Tony Martin singing on it. I urge everybody to check that out. Nobody probably bought that, probably sold 10 copies. And I bought one. And it's interesting that he discussed this, which on the same week that would have been Cozy Powell's 75th birthday. Wow. So I think that was, if done on purpose or not, I don't know. I'd like to think it was, but if it was, then I think that was a nice touch by Tony Iommi.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about this myself. And to be honest with you, I hadn't gone back until we knew we were going to talk about this. I did.
It makes you go back, doesn't it? It makes you kind of go back and jump.
That's why I love this stuff. Exactly. And it's been a while since I jumped into some old Sabbath with Tony Martin. And I'll tell you, man, the Eternal Idol. I know it's a great record. It's just listening. I mean, obviously, The Shining is a great song. Born to Lose. I mean, Nightmare. What a song that is. I mean, when I was listening to this record and just going back to the Tony Martin stuff, the one thing I just came away with, and I always do every time I listen to Iommi play, is just what a privilege it is to listen to this guy play guitar. Yeah. I mean, obviously, yes, I know people are going to go, well, there's no Dio, there's no Ozzy. I know it was more. Look, it was music that was made for the time. Mid to late 80s. Obviously, 87 was right when, look, it was right in the smack of the popularity of the 80s metal out of LA and the Sunset Strip. And it's got that sound. But it's also Tony Iommi. I mean, some of the best guitar work he's done, I really feel, is on this record, The Eternal Idol. Yeah. And this is obviously when it really was sort of the Tony Iommi solo Sabbath, as people like to say. But what a privilege it is just hearing the riffs and the leads and everything on this record and just in general on those records. I definitely, I'm so glad you brought this up. I really do, I wish that people would go back and listen to, especially to this record, to The Eternal Idol. I really think it's just an overlooked record because of the changes and here it was with a different type of style. It's always gotten written off because it's just another phase of the band. They had many phases, everyone knows. And so, also, great. Lyrics on here, obviously, were written by the great Bob Daisley. Mostly, I believe he wrote a lot of the lyrics as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited because, like I said, this definitely had me going back, checking out some of the stuff I hadn't heard in a while. And of course, when you don't hear for a long time, right? Because if you heard of the Eternal Idol, say in the early '90s, yeah, you probably weren't going to like it. Yeah, probably just like writing it off because of the era it was in. But now that everyone's a little bit older and you've got maybe a fresh set of years, it's great to go back and listen and just realize again what a just unbelievable guitarist Iommi is.
And I think the timing of obviously mid-90s era was when obviously metal was in the toilet basically. So it never really got Sabbath just became puzzling to people because prior to this section or this kind of subsection of the band with the 5 albums, they had 7 Star came out the year before with Glenn Hughes, which is a fucking incredible album. My goodness, we got to talk about that sometime. That album is fantastic. As good as any of these. And then they had Dehumanizer somewhere in the middle of these, and then it came back then kind of bookended with Forbidden or whatever it was. But so those albums right there, Dehumanizer is a great album. 7 Star I think is better than Dehumanizer, and these albums to go for. But I think those albums just got lost just because the songs were as good as anything. They just got lost because it was the mid-90s and nobody gave rock and metal a chance. Radio MTV was gone or not, not what it was. So it just kind of got lost. So hopefully, some of the Aussie Sabbath fans, if they're following websites or Instagram and whatever, will give this a shot that maybe you didn't before, because there is just tremendous songs on here. This is probably 90% excellent. A couple of iffy songs here, there. I think Forbidden is just not good as an album. The rest of them, I can't get enough of it. And I would urge, if you don't even know it, Matt, that Live 95 album, I think it was Live at Hammersmith, which is Tony Martin live album, which totally got lost in the mix, is tremendous. Great album.
Yeah, I know. It's funny you say too, if Ozzy, Sabbath fans, look, I mean, it's taken decades for Ozzy Sabbath fans to warm up to Dio. So I mean, so for them to really embrace Tony Martin, I mean, anything's possible. I have like a great buddy of mine. He, for years, just didn't like Dio because he took over for Ozzy. He was just an Ozzy purist guy.
I never got that.
I mean, he finally, he'll admit now, like, yeah, I was an idiot. I was stupid. I mean, Dio's great.
Heaven and Hell and fucking Mob Rules are just sensational.
Sensational. I mean,
Martin Birch, come on. They're just beyond good.
Beyond. So, yeah, I mean, it took a lot of those Ozzy fans, it took them years to embrace Dio. Well, are they old enough and mature enough or open-minded enough, I should say, to embrace Tony Martin? Good question. Hopefully they are. Hopefully,
but even Tony Martin released a solo album. I think it was in 22. I think it was.
He did.
And something Thorns name. I forget the name, but that solo album is fantastic. So he's like a solid rock artist that just doesn't get the credit. And hopefully this, I don't know how many songs he wrote, but hopefully he gets a paycheck off this too, because I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah. No, same here. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, well, let's get into our track of the week. We should pick in one track of the week that we highlight here. Obviously, it could be a new track. It could be something we recently discovered, something that's gotten overlooked over the years, whatever it may be. So go ahead, and what's your track for this week, Tom?
My track of the week, this has been a pretty doomy, heavy show so far. So I'm going to lighten things up. Europe. Hold Your Head Up, I think is it called. Did I get that name wrong? No, I think it is Hold Your Head Up or Hold Your Head High, whatever it is. Track of the week, I don't even know the song, but I'm a huge Europe fan, was back in the day. First saw Europe in 1989 in Dublin, small venue with my buddy Edgar, and we went up to see him. And Europe's last 4 or 5 releases have just been solid rock. And if you listen to it, it's nowhere near what you remember to be like Rock the Night and Superstitious and Final Countdown. Their last 4 or 5 releases are just fused with Deep Purple, Zeppelin, lots of Thin Lizzy in there, lots of UFO, and they're just solid hard rock. And this track, I think, is phenomenal. There's no talk of a new album yet. They're 40 years in the business right now. They're currently on a tour. John Norum, absolute guitar shredder. His solo album came out last year. It's awesome too. Check that out. And it's almost the original lineup, and they're still kind of at it. So I think this band does not get the credit, particularly for the last kind of 10, 12 years since they came out with kind of Start from the Dark, kind of brought it back on scene. There it is right there. Great track.
Yeah, this is a great track. And once again, this is kind of goes to what we've been talking about, on this episode. Right now, first thing people, and I'll just again, obviously the band from Europe, right? Here in the States, okay, obviously when people hear the name Europe, the only thing that comes to mind is the Final Countdown,
Sure.
right? Obviously, it's a song we've all heard in stadiums and arenas, like up until this day. That song
That's
continues to
right.
be
I think
played
it's a great
everywhere.
song. I think it's an awesome song with an incredible guitar solo by Key Marcello or Marcello, whatever his name is. But I think it's a great track, even though we've heard it to death. I think it's a great song.
It is, and well, I think that, like I said, I think a lot of the problem with, once again, we're, when we go back and we talk about band like Europe or just any of these 80s bands, especially that, had a pop hit or something that registered, that's all people will think of, right? They don't go into their catalog. They just hear, like you said, the Final Countdown. They think that's what Europe, that's all they're about.
That's right.
Not at all. You check out this song, hold your head up. This is a great, hard, rock, classic sort of metal rock song. And then, like I said, these guys, Joey Tempest, his vocals are still just
it's tremendous.
I mean, still top notch, man.
It really is. And I've seen him a couple of times live now, and they always deliver. Some in New York a couple of years ago. I think they said was Europe and who was it? Name escapes me, but Black Star Riders. That's who it was.
Okay,
yeah, which I'm not a huge fan of. Ricky Warwick, I hope you're not listening. Even though I'm a huge Lizzie fan, it's just one of those things that just never quite gel. Even though I like Ricky solo stuff, that's weird, isn't it? But anyway, that's Ricky. Fuck for the next show. But anyway, I totally edit that out, Matt. But no, the one thing about this show, you got to be honest. If you like something, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And if you upset somebody along the way, then
it's okay. Hey, that's what you got to do.
Fuck it. But I think, and the one thing I remember reading an interview with Joe Elliott a couple of years ago, and like obviously they said, the interviewer said, "Hey, do you get sick of playing Push Some Sugar on Me?" And he said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" He said, "Every band on the planet wants to write a hit song. That's what we exist for, is to write a hit song." So when if you think for 1 minute that Joey Tempest and John Norman, the rest of them, and Ian Hogland are up there, pissed off playing the Final Countdown, they're going, "Yep, there's another couple of bucks just arrived in my bank account." So
they've been able to survive as a band and be able to make a good living for themselves off that song. You know, and like you said, it's a great point. Look, tell me one band, okay, whether it could, listen, you look at all the classic bands, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, go through all of them. They all had that one period in time. Well, yes, they went a little more commercialized. They decided to spread the wings a little bit, experiment. Yeah, okay, maybe get a little more radio friendly and just look. I mean, just like anything, you can't be 100% all the time raw metal guy. I mean, you everyone goes through phases, and there's a phase you're going to go through and say, I don't want to play the same old stuff I've been playing. I want to, I just want to spread my wings a little bit. Every single band does it. Listen, Europe, it's not their fault that they wound up getting a hit song out of it. You know what I mean? Like you said,
it wasn't their only song. Like they had Superstitious, Rock the Night, Carrie, Countdown, whatever it was. They had a number of hits. They were not a one-hit wonder, and maybe they were perceived as such a little bit in the US. I don't know, but certainly not in Europe. Yeah, certainly
definitely
not in Europe.
Here it was all about that album, and anything else. That's just the thing in the States. It's once you have a radio hit. And all anyone can look at you is just do that. Hey, I mean, look at a band like Extreme. More than words.
Yeah,
everyone thinks everything's more than words. No one knows that. I mean, that's their biggest hit. Yet they got one of the biggest shredders that ever played the guitar.
Literally, one of the best guitar players on the planet.
Exactly.
Right now.
I mean, but no one's going to hear that because everyone can want to hear. The only thing people hear is more than words. And same thing for Europe. I mean, a lot of these bands. And once again. Okay, so they had an album, or they had a song or two that was a little different, that was a little more radio friendly, that became a hit. A Def Leppard Poured Some Sugar on Me. Yeah, but no one can forget, the back catalog of Def Leppard and how great those old albums were. So again, it's just so this is just another band. I mean, I encourage everyone to go check out this song. Think it sounds nothing like Final Countdown or anything like that. Nothing. And that's not what Europe is all about. Once again, once we talk about our top 5, we could talk about, I know a band you got on there. It's another great discussion. Yep. Everyone loves talking about, obviously, when there, but we'll worry about that when we get to that. But let's go ahead. I'm going to bring up my track of the week now. This is a band you just kind of talked about them before. We'll be talking about at the beginning of the show here. We were talking about a lot of these sort of stonery blues, doom metal bands that are really just mixing a lot of the harsher vocals. Black Royal out of Finland I love this album, and I love this track I'm going to play called Earthbound. Like I said, just has that sound that I was mentioning. That's really, there's a trend kind of going that I've noticed just from listening to a lot of newer bands. This is where it's going. It's taking that, like you said, that orange, very Orange Goblinly type
It
of
is.
music, absolutely, and then they're putting just a little bit more. I mean, Orange Goblin's got, Ben Ward, he's got, some aggressive vocals himself, but not to this level. This really, they really go a little more death and black metal vocally here with Black
They
World,
do.
but musically, just right there with it. I love this record. I love the song. Yeah, Black World's
That
my
was a
pick
new
of the
one
week.
for me, Matt. When you sent it on,
Mm.
full disclosure, I haven't heard of them before, so I checked it out. Like Slaughter was the other band we spoke about, and obviously Black Royal, and I much prefer this. I just think this
Mhm.
is, and because it has more of the death and the black metal vocals. Anybody who cannot differentiate those two genres, they're totally different, by the way. But I prefer this one because I think it's more musical. You can tell they're
Mhm.
phenomenal musicians. You can tell, and I even could hear a little bit of Opeth going on. Obviously, they're from Finland, so there's some that part of the world.
Sure.
And I'm a huge Opeth fan, but I just think this is a great track. So anybody who likes something a little bit different, 100% check that out.
Yeah, and Finland has got some great. I mean, just obviously, there's all the countries have great bands coming out, but Finland, just recently, I think they've
Unbelievable.
always had such a great scene, but I'm hearing so many. I mean, just whether it's your classic metal stuff, whether it's your heavy rock, whether it's
Sure.
stoner, doom,
But it's all up
just
there, Matt. It's like it's Finland, Norway, Sweden, even a
yeah,
little
it
bit of
is. It's all the
Denmark.
Scandinavian area,
Great
exactly.
stuff, man.
It's just
Yeah.
amazing stuff. So I always love. I mean, Sweden, I can go into. We can have multiple shows. How
We
many
could do
bands
a
coming out of there?
topic
It's
just on that. Yeah.
insane. I know, but yeah. So it's my pick of the week, my track of the
Mhm.
week, I should say.
Great track.
Black Royal, Earthbound, and let's go ahead. We're going to play Black Royal. We're going to play. Obviously, we'll start things off here with the new Europe track. Hold Your Head Up, and here we go. Right here on Aftershocks TV. Check it out.